let's talk about Myles Garrett and him skipping OTAs and all of you fans out there that are super worked up about this. So, welcome into the Cleveland Browns Report by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here. Now, quick disclaimer, we're actually filming this on Friday afternoon. This was originally going to be my video for today, Friday, but once DeAndre Hopkins got cut, I decided to push this video to now, present Saturday. So, we're going to time travel a little bit here. So, let's talk about Myles Garrett skipping OTAs. Does it mean anything? Is it a bad thing? Is it a good thing? Or is it most likely doesn't really matter? Now, the reason why we're discussing this is it kind of got to a point where it wasn't just a couple people commenting on videos and replying to tweets saying, Myles Garrett should be at OTAs. He's not a true leader, right? We've got actual publications out there, ones that I read and that I like, Dawg Pound Daily, going, Myles Garrett continues to show lack of leadership, and then has a whole article kind of ripping him apart for not going to OTAs and not being a good leader. And it's not just them. Our good friend, Tony Grossi, hopping on ESPN Cleveland. I do think the leader on the defensive side should be involved with this new defense. Are you concerned that Myles Garrett isn't at OTA? So I'm going to give you my opinions. I'm going to give you my takes on this one. I think this is a subject that no one who's coming into this video that feels really strongly on one side or the other is probably going to leave this video with their mind changed, right? Because ultimately, we are digging ourselves in the sand here, and that's what sports fans do in May. We're waiting for football to come around. We don't have a lot to nibble on, so when we get something like this, we really sink our teeth into it, and we make it into probably a way bigger deal than it has to be, but that's the nature of the offseason when we're starved for football. So, to be honest, right? Do you care that Myles Garrett is missing OTAs? Do you care at all, right? Is this something that even just a little bit bothers you, or nope, not a care in the world whatsoever? Let me know. It's the pinned comment down below, so scroll on down and give me your thoughts. Now, here is my first sort of thought / take, if you will. A lot of people talk about the leadership element of this, right? And if Myles Garrett was a true leader, he would be at OTAs. Can we stop pretending like we are in Berea and we are at the Cleveland Browns locker room and facilities and we know what kind of leader Myles Garrett is? I mean, all we really know about Myles Garrett for the most part are his stats. Let's be real, right? We get some audio clips, we get some interviews throughout the year and whatnot, but we don't pretend. Like, don't pretend to know that you know Myles Garrett on a personal level, right? Maybe you met Myles Garrett, maybe you are a friend of his, but for 98, 99% of fans, we know him as number 95, the guy who had 16 sacks last season, and he's the Browns' all-time sack leader. And then we like to then connect dots going, well, if you're super good on the field, then that means you must be a leader, right? And if you're a leader, then that means you must go to OTAs. That's how these things work. Is it, though? Like, there are lots of people who don't go to OTAs. Nick Chubb's not there right now. Is anyone questioning Nick Chubb's leadership? I mean, he's always been a lead-by-example guy. But I don't see anyone writing articles about Joel Petonio not being there. And he's the longest tenured player on this team. He's an all-pro guard. Don't you think if it was in his best interest to be at OTAs, he'd be there? So maybe it's not as important as we think it is. And because it's the only thing we have to talk about in the offseason, we've got to build mountains out of hills, essentially. Now, my second thought is this. Myles Garrett, for a guy who doesn't go to OTAs lately, has done pretty well. Does not seem to be an issue when the regular season rolls around. I don't think I can remember many instances in October and November where it's like Myles Garrett has no idea what the defensive play call is. Damn, I wish he was at OTAs when they installed this. No, the guy's coming off back-to-back 16 sack seasons. He's this franchise's all-time sack leader. He's arguably his franchise's all-time greatest defensive player in its history. And I'm going to put producer Patrick Seaman on the spot right now. Unmute yourself. Yeah. Off the cuff, how old do you think Myles Garrett is?
I go 28.
He's 27. He's 27 years old, guys. Like, he is just entering in his prime right now. He clearly has no issue in production for the regular season by skipping voluntary workouts, which, let's remind ourselves, are largely for rookies and first-year players, right, who are learning what it's like to play Cleveland Browns football, right, learning the terminology, the lingo, the jargon, and whatnot for this team. For veterans that have been around for a while, they don't need to be, they don't need to have their hand held through OTAs. They come to mandatory minicamp, and they produce when the regular season starts. Thought number 3. He is not skipping OTAs to eat Flaming Hot Cheetos, drink Mountain Dew, and hang out on the couch and play Xbox. Like, these players that don't come to OTAs, they are still doing workouts. And a lot of times they're doing workouts and not coming to OTAs because at OTAs, a lot of it is offensive install. They only get the players for so long, and they spend so much time likely going through the motions of, let's go through some of the basic plays, some of the basic formations. And Myles Garrett's like, I know this. You know who doesn't know it as well? Alex Wright doesn't know it as well. He should be there. He should be getting some extra reps, taking my turn in the drills. Meanwhile, can I work on being a bendier defensive end and being more of a Superman? Like, that's fine with me. If Myles Garrett becomes a better player because he doesn't waste this time by going to OTAs and having his hand held by Schwartz and Stefanski for things he already knows, and he wants to work out privately with his own athletic trainer, by all means, go for it. Now, if you're a bubble-ish player, maybe you do need to have your hand held, right? Maybe you do need to get refreshers on the offense and the defense and whatnot. The superstars, they don't need that stuff anymore. That's why they're superstars, okay? They're all pro players. They're not all pro players because of what they do at OTAs. They're all pro players because they do in the regular season. Thought number 4, and this is where I am going to give a little bit to the other side of the fence. You have a new defensive coordinator in Jim Schwartz, and it is a fair point to raise, which some people have, and I don't disagree, that there are going to be new elements and the new wrinkles of this defense being added right now with Jim Schwartz. So sure, you'd like Myles Garrett to be there while these new things are being introduced. Now, the pushback I'm going to give is, having said that, Jim Schwartz is starting with the basics. Like, listen to some of these interviews these coaches do, not just Stefanski, but sort of league-wide. They talk about this, and they're like, we're starting from ground zero for a lot of guys, right? We are not assuming that the players we draft or the players we signed know how we like to operate here. So we go back to the basics. We go back to day one. We go back to working on and talking about how to communicate in a huddle for a quarterback, right? That's what a lot of OTAs is made up of. So when you don't need to be there for that type of stuff, I'm not going to knock you for wanting to work out separately. And Jim Schwartz, he is not introducing every defensive play. They did not start OTAs with Jim Schwartz rattling off a very complex and deceptive blitz package for the first play. This is the basics, right? Let's get into our shell. Let's get into what's going to be the nuts and bolts of our defense, and we will add things on in training camp and in the preseason and early on in the regular season. Myles Garrett, well, sure, I can see why you'd like to have him there with a new defensive coordinator. I can't promise you because I'm not there myself. I don't play for the Browns, but I can come as close as I possibly can to promise you Myles Garrett is not missing key installations right now on defense. Thought number 6. It is May. It is June almost. None of this will matter in September. Have you ever seen a team have a disappointing season, a meltdown midway through, fingers start getting pointed, players only meeting, and a quote emerges, and someone goes, it's all because of the fucking OTAs. That's when it all started. No, come on. No team has ever had a disastrous season that went down the shitter and did not go to plan, and someone said, if only Nick Chubb and Bitonio were at OTAs, this could have gone a little differently this year. I'm not buying that. I'm not subscribing to that thought. Okay. Appreciate everyone for tuning in. I know this was a bit of a different video. Hope you guys liked the new style, if you will. Hit me up on Twitter if you haven't already. I'm always talking brownies over there at Matthew Petey. And I've already got a crowd growing for what's becoming a fan favorite in the Chat Sports office. Off-season mode, pick a card time. We have had 6 selections so far. Some stats, if you will. We have never had a heart or a spade picked yet. So as you guys pick at home, just keep that information in mind. I've got 2 producers that want to play, Cooperstein and Seatman. Jeffrey Cooperstein, what are you going to go with?
10 of diamonds.
10 of diamonds, okay. And Seeps?
Ace of hearts.
10 of diamonds, ace of hearts. Put me down for the jack of spades.
Okay.
Here we go. Ready? One last cut.
No way.
Queen of spades!
Oh,
that's brutal. Come on. All right. Enjoy your Memorial Day weekend, everyone. We'll see everyone later.